What happens when Hollywood takes a feminist classic and strips away everything that made it revolutionary? Hey, it's Darcy from Ladies First, and today we're talking about The Women from 2008 and how it proves that an all-female cast doesn't automatically make a feminist film. The Women remake had everything going for it on paper. Meg Ryan, Annette Bening, Eva Mendes, Debra Messing, and Jada Pinkett Smith, leading an entirely female cast that included powerhouses like Bette Midler and Candice Bergen. Writer-director Diane English spent 15 years trying to bring this contemporary version to the screen, promising to create strong, self-reliant female characters who supported each other, rather than resorting to treachery. The original Women was subversive precisely because it showed women as complex, flawed, and ruthlessly honest about their desires for power and security. Claire Booth Luce's 1936 play and the subsequent 1939 film didn't romanticize female friendship, they dissected it with surgical precision. These women schemed, manipulated, and fought over men not because they were shallow, but because in that era, men represented their only path to economic survival. English wanted to update this dynamic for modern women, who supposedly had more choices. She carefully maintained the original's all-female cast rule. No men appear on screen, not even in crowd scenes. The only male character is a baby boy born in the final scene, but here's where good intentions meet disastrous execution. The 2008 version mistakes empowerment slogans for actual empowerment. Where the original showed women trapped by their circumstances, the remake shows women who supposedly have choices. Yet somehow all their choices still revolve around men we never see. Mary Haines, played by Meg Ryan, is a clothing designer living in a beautiful Connecticut home with her wealthy financier husband and 11-year-old daughter. She has her own career, her own money, her own voice. Yet the entire plot hinges on her husband Stephen's affair with Crystal Allen, a perfume salesgirl at Saks Fifth Avenue played by Eva Mendes. For a movie that claims to be about female friendship and independence, it's remarkable how every conversation, every conflict, every moment of growth connects back to this invisible cheating husband. The film tries to dress up this old-fashioned plot with modern feminist language. Characters talk about supporting each other and finding themselves, but their actions tell a different story. Mary's journey isn't about discovering who she is outside of marriage. It's about deciding whether to forgive her husband or not. That's not feminist storytelling. That's just traditional melodrama with better marketing. Even more troubling is how the film handles female friendship. The original Women understood that women's relationships with each other were complicated, competitive, and shaped by their limited options. The remake wants us to believe that sisterhood can overcome everything, but it never bothers to show us why these women would actually be friends. The film's central betrayal comes when Sylvie Fowler, played by Annette Bening as a fashion magazine editor, literally sells out Mary's private pain to a gossip columnist to save her own job. This could have been a complex exploration of how economic pressures pit women against each other. Instead, it's treated as a simple mistake that can be fixed with an apology and a career change. Jada Pinkett Smith's Alex Fisher is introduced as Mary's confident, openly lesbian friend who dispenses wisdom about relationships. But Alex exists purely to serve Mary's storyline. We learn little about her own life, her own struggles, or her own growth. She's written as a two-dimensional lesbian with a cranky model girlfriend, rather than a fully realized person with her own needs and desires. Film's idea of diversity is casting women of different ethnicities, but giving them identical problems and identical solutions. There's no acknowledgement that women from different backgrounds might face different challenges, have different perspectives, or need different kinds of support. This isn't sisterhood. It's a fantasy of sisterhood that erases the real work required to build meaningful relationships across difference. Perhaps most damaging is how the remake reduces feminism to shopping. The original film used fashion and luxury as symbols of women's economic dependence. When characters obsessed over clothes and beauty treatments, it revealed their desperation to maintain their only source of security, their attractiveness to wealthy men. The remake keeps the shopping montages and makeover scenes but strips away their critical edge. Now fashion becomes a celebration of female power rather than a symbol of female limitation. Mary's journey includes scenes of her buying new clothes, getting new haircuts, and rediscovering rediscovering her personal style. The message seems to be that empowerment comes from looking good and feeling confident. This is called marketplace feminism, the idea that individual consumer choices can substitute for systemic change. It's feminism that's safe for capitalism because it doesn't challenge the structures that create inequality in the first place. Real feminist storytelling would ask why Mary built her entire identity around her marriage, what systems made that seem like her best option, and how she might work to change those systems for other women. Instead, we get a story about personal transformation through retail therapy. The saddest part about the Women remake is how much potential it wastes. Diane English spent 15 years developing this project, turning down every major Hollywood studio to maintain creative control. She assembled an incredible cast that included not just the leads, but supporting powerhouses like Carrie Fisher, Cloris Leachman, and Candice Bergen. But English had never directed a feature film before, and it shows. Critics universally noted the static visual choices and languid pacing. Kenneth Turan of the Los Angeles Times wrote that the film stumbles over all the points it wants to make and becomes unfocused as it tries to be both farce and manifesto. The dialogue, despite coming from an Emmy-winning television writer, falls flat. Instead of the razor-sharp wit of the original, we get what Turan called one-liners that aim for raunchy whenever possible. A.O. Scott of the New York Times was even harsher, calling it a witless, straining mess where you wait in vain for a moment of snappy repartee, of fresh emotion, of grace or charm or pathos. Compare this to films like Little Women from 2019, which takes a classic story about female ambition and makes it feel urgent and contemporary. Or Working Girl from 1988, which shows a woman navigating professional sexism without pretending the solutions are simple. Or even Girlfriends from 1978, which captures the messy reality of female friendship without romanticizing it. These films understand that feminist storytelling isn't about having the right politics. It's about having the courage to show women as fully human. The Women from 2008 fails not because it lacks men on screen, but because it lacks depth everywhere else. It takes the radical premise of the original, women are complex beings worthy of serious dramatic attention, and reduces it to feel-good platitudes about female empowerment. This kind of shallow feminism is actually harmful because it suggests that representation alone is enough. It's not enough to put women on screen if you're not willing to give them real conflicts, real growth, and real agency. It's not enough to talk about sisterhood if you're not willing to show the difficult work of building authentic relationships. The film's ultimate message seems to be that women can have it all, as long as they maintain the right attitude and wear the right clothes. That's not empowerment. That's gaslighting dressed up as inspiration. So what do you think? Have you seen a movie that promised feminist empowerment but delivered something else entirely? Let me know in the comments. And if you love analyzing how Hollywood handles women's stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Ladies First.